So first of all, welcome to our probably 15th Rise and Rank. Like we need to count at some point to see where we're at. We have some regulars here, some new people that are joining in today. So today is about understanding visibility in LLMs. Ozan already presented a couple of our clients. Let me maybe say something beforehand. I'm trying to keep it short a bit because this topic you could probably talk about also for 2 or 3 hours or a daily workshop. So just to give you some inspiration, what to look at. I'm happy to have a discussion afterwards with all of you, how you are tackling the topic, how you see the topic, because I think like there's a lot of different opinions also on the weight or importance of this topic. Some people like are completely going in that direction. I see agencies that like just do geo, and SEO is pretty much non-existent. I see people having the complete different opinion. It's like actually it's SEO and like it's just a different way to look at it. So let's discuss that later on and have this discussion where we have also this in-person network event or in office network event. Today will be the first time where I'll be recording the session. We'll look at it later, see how the sound quality is, how the recording quality is, and then decide, do we put it online somehow? We might do that in the future. Let's see. I'll start with our our 4 main takes on AI. So what do we see and what do we believe in? First of all, we think AI is fundamentally transforming the search engine landscape. I think there's not much of a debate that we're seeing a significant change currently, and it will probably not stop here. Like in 2 years, we'll probably look completely different at this thing. Then what we see is that user behavior is drastically changing, especially in research. Like people now know ChatGPT and those tools, and it's not this nerdy tool anymore. Like everybody knows that my 70-year-old parents know ChatGPT and use it on a regular basis. I'd see it mentioned everywhere around. So like this has already changed user behavior. We think that SEO in general remains relevant, but you need adapted strategies or more holistic strategies. And what we can't deny is zero-click searches are on the rise. That's just the case we need to deal with. So when we're talking about zero-click searches, it's like people get the response in the search results or in the chatbot, however you want to see that, without actually clicking to the website. But on the other hand, there's also a lot of new opportunities arising from that. So when everything is changing, opportunities also arise. So let me just say a couple of things starting in about the current development. So first of all, I put Crocodile Dundee on the slide because this is, I didn't put the source, but it's pretty much every Search Console account in 2025 that previously relied significantly on informational traffic. Let me say that ahead. Like it's not all of the e-commerce accounts that doesn't break through so much there, but if you have an account that was significantly relying on getting upper funnel traffic, this is what you pretty much see. So just to maybe comment it for the people that are not too deeply into the topic. So what we see is the blue line is clicks. It's declining, and what you see, it was always in line with the impressions. And at a time at the beginning of this year, they just went further away from each other, and you just see that the clicks are constantly declining, and that there's a pretty big gap. We have this Google tracking topic. I'm not going to go too much into that. So the num 100 parameters. What we also see is that AI traffic is for most websites currently pretty insignificant. Can somebody please open the door? So if you see here for Wikipedia, for example, for around 3.5 billion visitors via organic search, the AI traffic is just 8 million. So that's pretty insignificant. And looking at all of these sites, you will see the same picture. And which somehow, if you Google something and get that as a response, and the same with ChatGPT, it's not really surprising. Like, you get the full response, it's nicely structured, it answers your question. Like, why should you actually click on those links? And to be honest, like, I don't know how your user behavior is. I rarely do that. You get the answer to something you wanted to know, and then you don't click to verify this information. Maybe you should do that, but maybe that's upcoming at some point. But like, typically, most people don't do that to be realistic. But there's a catch. Let's look at something else. Let's look at the actual data from Google Analytics. So I looked through a couple of accounts, and you see that. Let me just use the pointer for the people that watch that later. You see that AI chats is pretty insignificant also here. Like, you have around 300k visitors in the same time frame, and you have 4 sessions, and you have below 2,000 from AI chatbots. But what's interesting is the conversion rate. Is extremely higher in AI chats than in organic search, and that's something I always heard. Heard that in a couple of presentations. And yesterday, when I made the presentation, I said, okay, let's take some screenshots that somebody made, and I said, no, let me look into our own accounts. And I also looked through a couple of accounts, and that picture is not just I picked the account where this where this shines out, and it's the other way around in all the other accounts. It's not as extreme in here, where you have like a 10 times conversion rate from the chatbots versus organic search, but you still see significant differences of 4x of the conversion rate, 5x. So there's you can pretty much see that in all accounts. Why is that? People still need services. People still need to buy. People still want to sell their house. People still want to buy a car. They want to buy shoes. That's all still happening. The difference is the decision making is not the typical way I click through 5 websites, inform myself, read them. The AI does that for you, presents you the information. But when you decide to click on a website, then usually that click is way more informed than before, and you make a more, or you have already completed way more of the decision making than before. So I quickly generated an AI image for that. So in ChatGPT, it's pretty much you're going through an express checkout. It's less people, but they come through quicker here, versus the search where you have like way more people, but the checkout is happening not that quick. So let's look at, like, if we all know that, and you're probably here because you somehow think it might be relevant to look at that and to optimize for that. So the question, what are we actually analyzing? As I said before, you can go deeper and deeper in these topics, and there's a lot of technical topics behind it. I'm trying to keep it very top level today. So if we look at an AI response, what do we see? We can look at which brands are mentioned in the response. Is my brand mentioned, or is it not mentioned? Are my competitors mentioned or not? You could look at sentiment, like, how is your brand mentioned? Is it mentioned in a negative way, in a positive way, in a neutral way? Because that's also significant when you want to influence the buying decision, or understand, or making people their how people are making their buying decisions. You can look at the citations. So below here and on the right side, it's a similar layout in Google AI overviews or Perplexity. I just choose to show just ChatGPT because it might be the most familiar one. So these are the websites that ChatGPT visited in order to generate this response. You will see the sources in the answer, or the or you say citations in the answer, and you will see like which websites has ChatGPT visited in order to get that, and obviously could potentially raise a click from the ChatGPT response. Then you can look at the entities. Might be the most complex how you say construct here. Entities is pretty much everything, like which places are mentioned, which persons are mentioned, which organizations, which products. What's always easy is to tie that to the schema org has an entity taxonomy, so you can tie that quite well what fits in their taxonomy, and it's quite widely used. I also added entities here because it's also very relevant to find out specific products. Like if you look at brands, you will just see, for example, in this response, Nike, but you will not be able to figure out which products are actually recommended, which are in this case shoes that are recommended. So let's come back to that point. What do we actually want to know, and why we want to know that? So let's imagine two old friends meeting at a bar, on page and off page. So they meet and say, "Hey, what do we want to know?" Because it's pretty much the same game. The on page guy wants to know, what of my content gets most cited by AI? What is performing and what is not performing? Stuff that we previously used to see through Search Console, through Google Analytics. But if we assume that there's 0 clicks and it's not happening on our website, we don't see that. So we want to know which content gets cited. They want to know which new content to create, because we all see that especially ChatGPT favors new content over old content. So obviously, content creation, if you want your website to be cited, is something that's extremely relevant. Also, in terms of we've seen there's some quite easy techniques to get more commonly cited by AI. One easy technique is, for example, being more question focused. So instead of advantages of XY, what are the advantages of XI? So from F of XY. So stuff like that is quite simple. Or adding some content in to your existing content that you might have missed, that adds some extra relevance to it. So the on-page guy wants to know, which content should I update and how should I update that content. What is my content coverage? The thing before we used to do keyword gap analysis and see like, okay, my competitors are having that and I don't have that. That's something that you also want to do in AI to understand, hey, which of the questions am I actually answering properly on my website? He might want to understand which entities to cover in content creation, but also in the whole topic of topical coverage, which structured data to implement, or, which is also very important, which other websites to reverse engineer, because it's all a new field and it's constantly evolving, and we see sites ranking where you say, what the heck, I've never seen this website before. It seems like a spammy new thing, and it's obviously a lot of spam happening in this field already. And you want to understand, what are they doing? What are their success factors to get into LLM? So that's what the on-page guy wants to know. The off-page guy wants to know typically, like, hey, which websites do I target for backlinks? But more importantly, for content placements. Like if you want your brand to be picked up, it's being less just looking at your own website, because what's cited is often a lot of websites, and the more you're being cited and recommended, the more trust is created. Then also, which websites to target for digital PR, what kind of communities and forums should I be active on, what are people picking up, and what kind of external content and strategy actually works and what doesn't work. So let's come to the point of how to analyze. I heard you already spoke about a couple of tools before that you've been trialing, and I think everybody is looking into it. We've been doing that as well. And at some point came to the conclusion to build our own stuff. Like people that have been here in the last months already saw the tool when we went into beta. What we do differently, and it was also the reason why we decided to build this tool. BuzzU, by the way, is the name. Is that for us, one very core thing is, or core demand is auditing. We have a bunch of clients. Everybody wants to know where they stand. They want to slice it down to different categories. For example, how does that category work? That product line, that category. And we've seen most tools out there focus on tracking. So like looking at a specific number of prompts, let's say 100 prompts, and tracking them on a day-to-day basis. And this is just where it limited us in what our clients actually wanted and what our daily needs are. So we build an auditing platform. We don't do tracking yet. We might do that at some point in the future. Our focus is really on auditing where we stand right now and on optimizing. I think that's one core point, because that was client feedback that we got. Okay, like what do we actually do with all data. But let's start fresh. I'll just show you some general stuff. You can transform that pretty much to any tool out there, because like the way tools look at things is quite similar. I would say. So first of all, we start with the question: what should I actually analyze, or what should I actually track? And that's not it's not that easy. In SEO, we used to go in AdWords Keyword Planner, add our keywords, see search volumes, and just use the stuff that's most commonly searched. Or we historically knew what our money keywords and so on, so we knew what to analyze and what to track, or at least there were tools out there to do that. With AI, it's significantly more difficult, because there are data providers that will give you prompt search volume, but it's pretty much imprecise at this point, and like everybody searches differently. So there's the data that people are exactly searching that, and that's 2,000 people a month is just not there, or it's just somehow constructed. So it gives you somehow a direction, but it's not like that there's these awesome keyword research tools out there. You can go another way around, that you use the keywords that are already relevant for you and try to transform them into representative queries. That's an approach. Another approach is to look at the people also asked questions from Google, because there's some proof that these questions are there because they have some search volume, or people are looking for them most frequently. Or you can have AI suggest questions for you. These are the ways how you can get there. They all have their pros and cons, I would say. So typically, this is something you should just think about. Some things that doesn't really work well, in my opinion, is going to your Search Console account and say, let's transform those keywords into questions. The reason for that, you have some kind of, I don't know what the proper English term is, but self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you're already performing well on those keywords, the chances you're already ranking in Google well, the chances that you're showing up in AI tools, and suddenly you have a result. Hey, boss, I'm performing awesomely on in AI tools, while it's actually not really a neutral view. So let's skip through that quickly. So this is the interface of our tool. When you want to track something, you can enter queries, or you can just use AI to generate stuff. We'll add some more options regarding the people also asked at some point. So in the beginning of a project, you choose what to monitor, which LLMs to monitor, which language to target, what's your brand, what's your website, and then you start analyzing those results, or the tool starts analyzing that in the background. I'm not going so much into technical details. Obviously, there's a scraping part where you get these responses. Very important. It's not the API responses. That would be fairly easy to do, but that's not what people actually see in the interface. Then you have the analysis part. You have a lot of harmonization topics that, like, for example, brands are always written differently due to different results. You need to harmonize that your brand doesn't show up like 20 times in the response with a different spelling, because this is stuff you cannot work with. Let me just move on. So let's see what we can actually analyze. The most important thing is your overall performance, and probably over time and with different features that are coming in these LLMs, these metrics will also evolve. We chose to go for four core metrics. The first one is visibility. We define visibility in how many of the prompts was your or how many of the responses was your brand mentioned. It doesn't matter if it's mentioned once or twice or three times. It's just, is it mentioned or is it not mentioned? That's the way we measure it right now. Might change, might get more sophisticated regarding positions and so on. But this is the way it's calculated right now. Then the other one is URL and sources. How often is your URL showing up in the citations, in the sources? The third one is share of voice. How often is your brand showing up versus all other brands? Let's say your brand was mentioned 50 times and there were 2,000 brands mentioned, then I need to do the math. It's 2.5% of all of your mentions contained of all URL citations contained your URL, your brand. Sorry, I skipped. And then sentiment. How positive is your brand mentioned? Is it negatively mentioned? Is it neutral? Is it positive across all mentions? When you then go into more details, it's looking at brand performance. Which brands are performing how in terms of visibility, share of voice, drilling down, like how's the performance ChatGPT versus Gemini, versus Perplexity versus AI overviews, for example. Then obviously going a bit deeper and understanding how our responses actually build up, how are brands being cited, drilling down in your most important topics, seeing which entities are covered. That's a field obviously where you can also drill down, like where are my competitors mentioned and where am I not mentioned, for example, and specifically look into these topics. Then something which is extremely relevant, even more in the off-page field, is understanding which websites are most commonly cited, understanding how they differ between networks. I recently found out that one of my clients performed well in ChatGPT. They performed well in Google AI overviews, and I saw nothing in Perplexity. Even monitoring 500 prompts, and I was like, hey, why the heck is that happening? It doesn't make sense somehow. And my first suggestion, okay, our tool is broken. Like we have some issues with scraping Perplexity or with processing the results. And it was my first thought. And I was like, no, but it works on all other projects. What the heck is happening? And then I actually opened Perplexity and tried to find the client. It just wouldn't show up. Like whatever, I like go visit this website. No, other websites. It didn't even say me that nothing was wrong. But then we figured out, hey, actually they're just blocking Perplexity completely. So I spoke with their firewall team. They unblocked Perplexity. And now we need to see that this Perplexity seems to have that somewhere in the system. Like they don't always retry. At least that's what I figured. But that's what you can see there also. If you see like in a specific LLM, your website doesn't show up, there might be issues in that direction. Then what's also interesting, especially when we come to software as a service, when we come to like that's something about credit cards, figuring out what are not the most cited websites. I can maybe put on the Zoom here. But what is the top performing content? So we see, for example, this Für Gründer article was mentioned 60 times here, no? Mostly by Google and Perplexity. But that's extremely relevant. Like if you want to get like your product placed in content that's supposed to like that it's being picked up, your main priority should be getting into that article if you aren't yet. Like, let's say you have these top lists where like 9 of your competitors or 10 of your competitors are on the site and you're not, you have a significant disadvantage. And that, like, looking at the top content is really relevant. Then seeing which entities are used in the LLM responses is relevant for optimization, as I said, for building your topical authority, but also I just filtered the project for the running shoes that I made. Just based on products, because that will tell you which products or which specific shoes are being mentioned most, and not just like, hey, is Nike mentioned more than Saucony or some other shoe brands. But like, for example, we figured that Nike is not the most mentioned brand, but they have the most recommended shoe across all responses. Then what's really relevant is also understanding which questions to answer. So what we do, we extract all the people also asked. You see in the project, for example, with 100 prompts, eventually you get around 2,000 questions out of there. You see how frequently they show up. So this is absolutely like, that shows up 32 times on 100 searches. So you should absolutely somewhere answer this question on your website, and potentially also externally somehow. Yeah, so that's it about that. So next topic, how to optimize. I'm not going into detail here. That's a whole nother session. But obviously, with all of that data, next steps is optimization, and not just, okay, nice, I know all of that, but actually doing something, because only with doing something you'll see some results. I just show you two things. Is also part of our tool that we look into content optimization, actually from that data, generating insights, generating briefings, generating content, if you like. Where's Amin? Here. Hi. Amin built that. So thanks for developing that. So first, like, I'm also not going into details, like what are the technicalities behind how do you optimize content from a styling perspective, but the outline is simple. First, you optimize the content, and then you get it published. So that's another module that we've built, where you can just add all of the domains to your list, and it will already get the contact data for you, telephone numbers, contact persons, emails, so that out of this tool you can actually build your outreach list and hand that to your outreach team, or do that yourself. So what's the end of the party? On page and off page, go home drunkenly together, just like ever before. Thanks for your attention.